Okay, so thanks for following along to these videos if you are. If not, as I've said many times, I'm doing these videos for myself. But this is the one where I go down the soil rabbit hole. And so while I was in the agency, which you learned more about that in the previous video, and in the agency world and doing kind of the beehive and co-working and all other stuff, I did actually have the benefit of acquiring a farm. We had 40 acres out in the Tilden area, just near Woodend. And that got me in the great outdoors, I guess. So it got me connected more to nature, got me out on the weekends, you know, doing projects with my hands, taking me away from the screen and doing things on the property, fixing gates, finding water leaks, dealing with animals that have moved off the property. But we were subleasing different parts of the land because we weren't there full time. And so different enterprises, it was almost kind of like co-working, but for farmers, and that's where I actually did buy the domain cofarming.com.au, because I was like, oh, that's a concept. Like maybe people want to share land. And that's something I still haven't explored. Yeah, I really like, again, I always like the share economy, like how do we have multiple functions on the same land? And we had cattle, chickens, tiny houses. The house that was there was rented out. And we would go there on the weekend and do tasks. And so digital world, farming was a thing, and like hobby farmers, I guess it was. And and then I'm doing work at an agency, and a client comes in called Farming Secrets, and it was the Christmas party. And the owner of the business was like, "You guys should talk. Like Ray has a farm, and you're Farming Secrets, and you guys should talk." And so we started talking, and we didn't stop talking, and it went into for like days and weeks and months, and then turned into years. And what happened is I realized that a lot of my digital expertise and the tools that I had been learning is the same tools the same tools that they were using at this Farming Secrets platform. And so Farming Secrets was an educational company, and still is, that originally back then was selling DVDs to farmers and educational products. And it really just blew my mind that, like, you know, farmers didn't really have great internet at this time. And so the only way to get information to them was by literally shipping them a DVD. It was kind of like the Netflix model, like OG Netflix model was a DVD subscription, but they were doing it for farmers and with like farmer content to farm naturally and with no chemicals. And that really kind of got me interested. So here I am doing the digital marketing for them as a bit of a 1 day a week, or I think it was even just contract work, a couple of hours, get this fixed, can you fix this? Like we're stuck here. And so as I'm watching the content, my mind is being blown. I'm like, you're telling me that soil is a living organism and it has life and it can sequester carbon and grow nutrient dense food, and when we do it right, food can become medicine. And I'm like, what? Where is this being? Like, why is this locked behind DV? Like, why is not everyone doing it this way? And I really had like this massive aha moment. And it was at that moment where I then decided that working with Farming Secrets was becoming a priority, and like it became a 1 day a week, then a 2 day a week. And then I went on a holiday for 7 weeks. And when I got back, they realized how much I was kind of doing in the business, and they offered for me to become a partner and a succession plan, I guess, in their business. And so that was a very pinnacle moment in my life, where I started to realize how important many ecosystem parts make up the whole of a system. And Farming Secrets had been operating for 10 years at this point, or maybe even longer. And so they had been talking about natural farming, chemical-free farming, and this kind of new buzzword, regenerative agriculture. Regenerative agriculture. And so that it was at this moment where I was like, I learned that sustainability means to sustain something. So maybe 10 years before that, we could sustain a system that was okay. But because we had degraded it so much more, to sustain a broken system would not be smart. And so we needed to repair it. We needed to rebuild it. And so while at Farming Secrets, watching all the content, putting together like email marketing newsletters, campaigns, promotions, I really started falling in love with soil. I was like, soil became this kind of North Star. Wow, a bit of emotion hit me then. Wow, it's interesting. I need to explore that. Soil became this kind of North Star that just hijacked my life, my soul, and took me to like magical places. Wow, that's interesting. I didn't think I was that emotionally attached to soil. Maybe from all the books that I have, you could see that now, but back then, so this is 2019 going into 2020, so COVID hadn't even happened yet. And, you know, we're selling products, we're converting things into more of the digital age. And then COVID-19 happened and we were like, okay, well, freighting has stopped, the borders were closing. And so my problem solver brain literally kicked in and was like, let's run a 2-week summit where we just talk about soil and give people something to do for like the next 2 weeks while we're in this temporary lockdown, as they were saying. And that 10-day conference was just absolutely amazing. We were able to pull like some really big speakers at last minute. And every day, I think it was like 10 a.m., we'd have like this hour of soil chat, and different experts came on and spoke about their craft and spoke about like soil and really gave soil some life. And it was just such a wholesome project to do, and in a time where people were a bit confused and lost and unsure of like what was happening as this COVID-19 was rolling out. And so, you know, we went into lockdown, and I don't need to hash out what happened there, but over those, you know, what felt like years of lockdown, we doubled down and converted every single DVD program into digital, and we created the Soil Learning Center. And the Soil Learning Center still exists and is online, and you can go there and buy content to learn about no-till farming or like chemical-free farming or worm farms or composting. You know, there's things there for home growers and there's things there for big ag scale farming. And it was also at a time where like doing natural farming felt woo-woo. It felt like a lot of farmers were like, oh, that's for you, not for me, or that's for them on the other side of the world. We don't do it here in Australia. And so it was a real big challenge to get people to change. And I was like getting frustrated because I was like, look at this amazing content. Look at all these results that people are getting. And yet farmers were just all, you know, default back to doing their normal regular program of fertilizers and synthetic inputs and genetically modified seeds that were locked to the companies that wouldn't regerminate and you couldn't keep, and you're under contract and all this like bullying language. And so, yeah, having the farm and being able to be on a property and getting connected to the land, and then discovering Farming Secrets that was running this online digital platform for farmers was just kind of this beautiful Venn diagram that created where there was this digital world and farming world and soil world that was kind of all landing together. And so, yeah, the farm, I guess, taught me a lot about like you can never plan what you're going to do, because you go there with the intention of fixing a gate and you see that there's a water leak, and you go there to fix the water leak and you see that a fence has fallen over. And so the farm kind of gave me this idea of, you know, you never know what chaos you're going to walk onto the property on. And I think life is very much like that as well. And the other thing that it taught me was patience. You know, you plant a tree and it takes decades for that tree to grow. And we planted a whole bunch of trees on that property, and I hope that they're still there growing, adding value and shade to other people, because I no longer have the farm. So that got sold just after COVID. Just, you know, lots of life changes happened, and it wasn't viable to keep that. And it's probably one of my regrets in life. So the farm got sold. But I had this Farming Secrets and soil love that kept me kind of connected. And with Farming Secrets, the real lesson was like the more I got my hands dirty, the more I discovered this kind of magical life that existed. And I got so passionate about it that I really kind of rebranded myself as like Regenerative Ray or Regen Ray, and I started the podcast called Secrets of the Soil. We launched the Soil Learning Center, this online platform, because with all my kind of digital background and learning management skills. We've been able to like do a course and do quizzes and give certificates. Like that was all the stuff that was really easy for me from all the jobs that I'd done. And so, yeah, it was real great to be able to add value to that chapter with Farming Secrets. And then I moved to Sydney, and it wasn't as easy to be in the Farming Secrets ecosystem while being in Sydney. And so I made the decision to kind of part ways and leave my legacy of what I'd achieved there, except for the podcast. I wanted to keep the podcast. I felt like the podcast was an extension of me and still is. The amazing conversations that I've been able to have on that podcast has been really, really powerful. And so, the Soil Learning Center, again, is kind of like this, this space that you can go and just immerse yourself in learning about all different things got to do with soil and natural farming. And since then, a lot of other platforms have come up and lots of other training programs and certification and things have unfolded. And it's been really interesting to see how the landscape, pun intended, has changed over these years. And someone like my business partners, Helen and Hugo in Farming Secrets, who have been doing it from like a decade before that, like they've seen the last 20 plus years of this movement of natural farming. And it's not even new. It's actually forgetting what the Industrial Revolution did and told us that we need to have chemicals and genetically modified seeds and monoculture. And it's a remembering back to more traditional ways of how food was always grown by the village and by stewards of the land and by, caretakers. And we kind of ruined it. And now we're like going regenerative isn't really going regenerative. It isn't really going natural. It's forgetting industrial and remembering what it was. And so, yeah, you could probably tell I'm quite passionate about it. And I kind of just went and made soil the main goal for me. Is like, how do we get the world interested in healthy soil? And the podcast has added to that. A bunch of documentaries have come out over the years. The podcast is getting reactivated, and I will continue to keep adding value in this space. But I've done a whole bunch of webinars and online courses, and I even bought a microscope and I started looking at soil under a microscope. And now I don't want to become a soil scientist. I just want to I am a soil advocate. I want to advocate for soil and the life that it has and that it brings and creates to our planet. And so, the world of digital led me to meet Helen and Hugo, and then Farming Secrets opened up my heart to the world of soil. And the rest is still being written. And there's a bunch of other projects that you'll have to just watch the next videos to get familiar on those ones. But this is probably one of the most important videos in this chapter journey, because it was a clear line in the sand of like digital world and entrepreneur me, and then moving into this more slow, grounded, connected soil, but still being able to have that little bit of hustle or that little bit of getting shit done energy to like help advance the conversations around soil. So yeah, join me in the next video where I'm going to cover off a few other projects around the soil world. And then we're getting closer and closer to the now. So there's a few more videos in this series to go. I'll see you on the next one.